The following program presents information about puberty, human sexuality, and reproduction. It contains illustrations of human anatomy and is not intended for children younger than 8.
A lot of people do want to know about it, but when the topic comes up, they're like embarrassed.
While I was growing up, no, my parents did not ever talk to me about sex.
I had 2 older brothers, and actually a lot of the times I turned to their girlfriends to talk to them.
Because my parents, they're both doctors, so they talk about it like it's something very interesting, something very scientific. But when it comes to the emotional part, I think that they're a little uncomfortable.
My mother and father have no problem talking to me about it.
Sex is...
How could you put it? It's hard. It's very difficult to explain, what it is.
Sex. It's not always easy to talk about. I'm Stephanie Yu.
And I'm Z-Right.
And this is a show about a subject that kids and adults find a little tough to talk about. Sex and growing up.
It's not like we're born knowing all about this, so how are we supposed to find out?
We ask questions.
But it's not like asking about your math homework or what's for dinner.
That's why we're going to have some people helping us.
This is Bob Silverstone. He's a sex educator who works with school kids. Today he's going to help us get answers to some of our questions about sex.
And this is Rhonda Wise. She's a sex educator too. She's also going to answer some of our questions about sex and growing up.
And that's what we're going to be talking about because
we all have a lot of questions. What kids want to know about sex and growing up.
Every day I turn to see, I'm looking at a brand new me. Times I sit and look at my reflection. Everything is going in a new direction. A lot of change is going on. I know I'm not the only one. I'd like to know a little more about it, but no one seems to want to talk about it. And I look around, it's everywhere. No matter where you look, it's all you see. But it's not enough to let me know what is going on inside of me. Just trying to grow at my own pace. Sometimes I feel I'm in a race. They all tell me I don't need to worry, but all the signs are telling me to hurry. And I look around, it's everywhere. No matter where you look, it's all you see. I don't want to be the last to know what is going on inside of me.
I've got a question. What's puberty?
And what's a hormone?
Am I growing fast enough?
Should I be taller by now? Is this normal?
If you're a kid, one thing's for sure. Someday you start becoming a grown-up, and that's called puberty. Puberty starts at any time between the ages of 9 and 16. It starts at a different time for everybody. For instance, what's everybody in this picture got in common? Let's see. Some kids are taller. Some kids are shorter. Some kids look older. Some younger. They all look different, just like my friends and me. But these kids are not only in the same grade, they all were born in the same year and the same month. And these 3 were born on the same day. They're almost exactly the same age, but you can see they're growing up at different rates. Smile for the camera.
Until puberty, my body was pretty predictable. No big surprises. Oh, sure, I got my permanent teeth, and I got pretty good on a skateboard, and I slowly got taller. But this is different. When puberty starts, you go through a lot more changes. Some you can see, and some you can't see. Some of these changes affect the way you feel. And you may even feel different from one day to the next. Maybe one day you feel like this about the person sitting next to you in homeroom. And the next day, you might feel like this. You start to get new urges that make you want to feel close to another person in a brand new way. All these new urges and changes are part of a design to make it possible for you to grow up and have children someday. And what causes all these changes? Hormones.
You've had hormones all along, even when you were a baby. Hormones are chemicals that get to all parts of your body by traveling in your bloodstream. They regulate many of the things your body does. They affect growth, how your muscles develop, whether you gain or lose weight easily, and more. Different hormones are produced by different glands in your body. The pituitary gland here is the control center for many other glands in your body that produce hormones. It makes hormone production slow down or speed up throughout your life, and even turn some hormones on and off at times. It's like you have your own inner clock that turns on and off as you grow and change. Some of the hormones produced by your glands are called sex hormones. They determine whether you're a girl or a boy. During puberty, your inner clock speeds up their production.
When puberty starts, these sex hormones really get busy.
Hormones and boys.
In this group, we have people who are approaching puberty, we have people who are going through puberty, and we have people who have not yet reached that point. Puberty is a word that adults often use, and I'm not sure that kids are often familiar with what it means. When you hear that word puberty, what does it mean to you? Tim?
Growing, developing.
Uh-huh. Dan?
When your body starts like changing and like certain body parts start like developing.
You get hair somewhere, some places on your body, and you go through changes. Like sometimes people grow mustaches.
You probably want more privacy because you think that you're growing up more and you want more privacy from your family and stuff like that.
Start to feel like older, like you're more growing up. And, it starts to feel weird.
Weird, is it? That's a strong word. Okay, yep.
Two things is, one is that you can become a future parent. And another is sweat glands. They make you smell sometimes.
There are a variety of changes that boys go through when they enter into puberty. There are similar changes that girls go through when they go into puberty. But first, we're going to talk about boys. It all starts because of hormones. For a boy, when puberty begins, the pituitary gland up in your head sends a hormone message down to the testicles. The testicles start making a hormone called testosterone. That's when things really get interesting. The testosterone, along with other hormones, make you start growing faster. It's called a growth spurt. You get taller. Also, you get more muscular, and your shoulders start to get wider. Slow down. This doesn't exactly happen overnight. Your vocal cords are growing and making your voice change. Your voice is likely to get deeper. Maybe not that deep, and not all at once. That's why your voice may crack. Eventually, your voice settles in.
That's better now.
The sweat glands and oil glands in your skin become more active. You sweat more than you did before, and you may get a few pimples, or a lot, or none. You grow hair in some new places, like on your face, under your arms, and on your chest. You also grow hair around your genitals. That's your penis and your scrotum, the sac that holds the two testicles. Your genitals get a little of that growth spurt too. And inside, the testicles are starting to produce sperm. And there's more. A lot's going on. And it's all natural. I guess I'm wondering in terms of some of the physical changes that have gone on with you or that you expect will go on with you, what are some of the things that will be the easiest for you to accept, and what are some of the physical changes that are hard for you to deal with? Yep.
When do you think the age is when most boys have their voices changing?
Boys tend to go into puberty, as girls tend to go into puberty, over a range of ages, and there is no normal part of that. And the sequence of changes is not exactly the same for all people. That for some people, the first sign of going into puberty is that your voice changes. For other people, it's that you start to get hair on the top of your lips, or you start to get pubic or underarm hair, or that your penis starts to grow. It's different for different people.
What age should you start to shave?
Like all of the other changes that happen during puberty, there is a wide variation in that. Typically, boys will start somewhere between as young, perhaps, as 11, and some boys will not start shaving until they're as old as 17 or 18 years old. There's a real variability about what's natural for people in terms of shaving.
How big does your penis get?
That's a question that for most guys is full of anxiety. Most males are as fearful about penis size as girls and young women are about their breast size and shape. Penis, when it's limp, the fancy word for that is flaccid. Penises tend to range anywhere between just a quarter or a half an inch to a couple of inches in length. When the penis becomes erect, as boys go into puberty, boys have erections, of course, starting at birth. But as boys go into puberty, and the penis begins to get bigger as all of the body gets bigger, the typical adult erection is approximately 5 or 6 inches in length. Some are a little bit shorter, some are a little bit longer, just like all of our heights.
Can it get much bigger if you're like a really big guy?
As a matter of fact, there very often is not a relationship between one's body size and one's penis size. So you may have a fairly short person with a longer penis, or a taller person whose penis is not that long. There's another piece of that, which is sometimes magazines will say, if you want a longer penis, send away for this product. All of those products are nonsense. They are not to be used, and some of them, in fact, can be outright dangerous.
Well, so I've heard from some people when I'm around older people, they, like high school kids, they sometimes think, what happens if my penis is too short? What will a girl think? Mm-hmm. Well, what are you supposed to do about that?
Okay. And the answer, I think, it's a great question, and I think that's a fear that lots of males have. And the answer is that there is no penis that's too short.
What happens if someone grows like too slowly and stuff? Like doesn't go through puberty until a late age?
Everybody goes through puberty at exactly the right rate. It's built into their body. People tend, who go through puberty very early, and some people who go through puberty very late, sometimes feel bad about themselves. And they say, I look different from the rest of the kids my age. The truth is, there's not much you can do about it other than simply say, by the time I get to be 17 years old, I'm going to look and feel just like everybody else. Relax.
Relax? I'll try. And then there's waking up in the morning with a wet spot on your sheets. There are so many changes. Erections and wet dreams.
I guess the worst change or like worst problem that you face while you're going through puberty would be like wet dreams, because they're uncomfortable and they're hard to like explain when it happens.
Michael?
I was going to ask you to say, how does it occur?
Okay. That what happens typically, and it's a very common thing that almost all males will experience, is that some night you will wake up and you will find a wet spot on the sheets, and you will say, uh-oh, I think I wet my bed. And the real issue is it's not urine. That what happens as people go into puberty is that all during the night, Every 90 minutes, males have erections. It's a natural kind of thing that happens to all males throughout their lives. Even babies have erections. When a male has an erection, extra blood fills spongy tissue inside his penis, causing it to become larger and stiffer. The new thing during puberty is that now, when you have an erection, even in your sleep, you can also have an ejaculation. That's when a small amount of whitish liquid comes out the tip of your penis. This liquid, called semen, is not urine. The semen which we're seeing through a microscope contains millions of these tiny cells called sperm, which are constantly being made in your testicles. Just 1 teaspoon of semen contains roughly 200 to 300 million sperm.
After an ejaculation, what is it like? What happens to, what do you feel like after an ejaculation?
The word is orgasm, and an orgasm is a special physical and emotional experience that accompanies an ejaculation. And it's a very special feeling that is different from most other experiences that males have had. And it feels good.
About what age do you think you start to have wet dreams?
The issue for wet dreams is pretty much the same as the issue for all of the pieces of puberty. For some boys, it may be as early as 10, and for some boys, they may not have wet dreams until they're 15, 16, 17 years old or later.
Are there some people who don't have wet dreams?
There are some people who will never have a wet dream, and that's perfectly normal and natural. Yes?
Can it happen when you're not sleeping, like when you're next to a girl?
Very often, erections happen spontaneously. Spontaneously means just kind of out of the blue. And an erection, as I indicated, happens while we sleep every 90 minutes. But it also might happen if we have thoughts. Then they might be sexy thoughts, or they might be thoughts that have nothing to do with sex at all. And in fact, it might be really embarrassing. I mean, you might be in front of a room reading a report in social studies, and all of a sudden you have an erection for no good reason. And for many of us, that's really embarrassing.
Yeah.
Right? You've experienced that? The good news is it goes away eventually. And guys do a variety of kinds of things to kind of put our hands in our pockets, or we hold books in front of us so that we can get erections naturally during the course of the day.
When our penis gets hard, is it called a boner?
Boner is a word that is a slang word that some people have used. Hard-on is a slang word that some people have used. Erection is the word that most adults tend to use for that. And even though people use the word boner, it's important to be aware that it's not a bone. Okay, there's no bone in the penis. It's just a bunch of blood vessels that fill up in order to make the erection. Greg?
When I wake up, I usually have an erection in the morning. Well, some people do because I've heard it a lot. When you wake up and you try to hide it, so like when if your mom comes in to wake you up in the morning, you try to turn away so she doesn't see like what's happening.
Okay.
So it doesn't look, so you don't like act like it. And then when you get out of bed, it just goes back to normal.
And is that an experience that other people have had? Yeah, okay. That morning erections are a very normal thing for most males. And as I said, we get erections during the course of the night on a fairly regular basis, and very frequently just before we awaken, we have an erection. And precisely as you said, that after a period of time, the erection goes down. And I think you can be pretty well assured that your moms know that that's a normal thing that happens to you. And I can appreciate, and they will probably appreciate, that it's private and you don't want to kind of go parading around with your erection on.
Would a girl's wet dream be considered as a period?
No.
When they go through the period stage?
No, it's not. Period for girls is typically taken as the first sure sign that she's hit puberty.
The first sign? I guess girls go through lots of changes, more than getting their periods.
Hormones and girls.
We're going to talk a little bit, too, about all the different changes.
Girls go through lots of changes during puberty.
But first I want to ask you, how does it feel? What kind of feelings do you have when you start to go through puberty?
I don't know, you're just growing up.
You feel older?
Yeah. It's weird, like one year you're like, boys hate you, and the next year everybody wants to go out with you. It's different. It's
so you notice a difference in the boys. What about girls? Do they feel that way about boys? One year, maybe they didn't like them so much, but this year it's a different story.
Like sometimes, like they could like be better looking like the next year than they were the year before that.
Any other feelings about the changes that are happening to you?
Feel grown up.
You're growing up? Well, let's see. Some of you I see have started to develop in certain areas already. How do you feel about those kind of changes?
Embarrassing.
Embarrassing. I guess we're talking about breast growing.
But it's funny though. Sometimes people play around with you like, oh God, look how cute they are. It's like, oh, like hide them.
It makes you self-conscious when people pay too much attention to your breasts?
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think they do that?
Just to get on your nerves.
To get on your nerves? That's the only reason?
That's what's one way. Like everybody's just sitting there staring at
boys
you.
especially.
Yeah, they like judge you. If like a girl's flat, they don't go out with them. But yeah.
Oh, so if you grow them early and you have breasts, that's a problem. And if you're flat, if you don't have any yet, that can be a problem too.
I mean, like one day I went to school without a bra, and I noticed something was funny, and like I called my father, I go, come bring a bra for me, please.
For a girl, when puberty begins, the pituitary gland, up here in your head, sends a message down to your ovaries. The ovaries start making hormones, including estrogen. The hormones really start all the changes. Girls get rounder. No, not all over. Just a few places, like rounder hips and fuller breasts. You'll probably notice a new growth of hair under your arms and on your legs and around your genitals. You'll have a growth spurt, and your voice will start to sound a little deeper. But it doesn't crack. Your sweat and oil glands get more active. You'll sweat more than you did before, and you may get pimples. A few, a lot, or you may get none. Meanwhile, your genitals are developing. The genitals inside your body are protected by the pelvic bone. The genitals include the ovaries, here, and the uterus, here, also called the womb. If a woman becomes pregnant, the uterus expands to hold the baby. The vagina, located here, is a kind of small passageway, which ends here as an opening on the outside of the body. Usually you can't see the opening very easily. It's protected by folds of skin called labia. Above the opening to the vagina are a tiny opening here for urine and the clitoris here, which is very sensitive to touch. The whole outer area is called the vulva. The clitoris can help create the strong physical and emotional feeling called an orgasm.
Is masturbation okay?
Before I answer that, let me say that masturbation is when a boy or a girl touches the private parts of his or her own body, including their genitals, for sexual feelings.
Now, some people don't believe that this is what people should do. Some people think that it's perfectly okay. It cannot harm a girl or a guy in any way at all physically. Puberty, big question in everybody's mind. And
There are a lot of questions and urges and changes.
Talk about how people feel about
I guess the biggest change is getting your period. Now I use pads, but tampons, well, I haven't figured out how to use these yet. Getting your period.
Like the first time I had it, it was, whoa, I didn't know what it was. I just looked down and I'm like, what is it? What is it? Then I run out of the bathroom. I go, Mika, look down. And she goes, my sister got a period. She goes and runs, calls my mother, and my mother tells everybody at work. And I was
So they were real excited about it, though. But, you know, when a girl gets her period, that's one of the first stages that she starts to go through in terms of becoming a woman. So it can be very exciting.
Why does a woman need her period?
Oh, why does a woman need to have her period? A woman's inside of her body is very special. Even before she's born, that baby girl's ovaries are already set up to release 400 tiny eggs over the course of her lifetime. Pretty phenomenal, huh?
At puberty, the first of these eggs ripens. The ovaries start releasing one egg about once a month. When the egg leaves the ovary, it travels into one of two tiny tubes here. This is an actual egg traveling inside the tube. Here we're seeing it through a microscope. The egg is smaller than a grain of sand. If the egg is joined by a man's sperm, the egg is fertilized. Meanwhile, the uterus has begun to prepare itself by building up a soft lining of tissue. The fertilized egg then travels on to the uterus, where it attaches itself to the soft lining that is formed there. The lining is rich with nutrients that feed the tiny fertilized egg, so that it can begin to grow into a baby. But if the egg has not been fertilized by a man's sperm, it just leaves the body. You most likely won't see it because it's so tiny and transparent. About 2 weeks later, that soft lining, which is no longer needed, slowly flows out of the body from the uterus, past the cervix, and through the vagina. This flow looks like blood, but it's mostly body tissue. This process is called menstruation, or having your period. During each month of what is called a woman's cycle, the lining grows again. An egg is released, and most likely the lining is shed in a new period. Even though a period usually lasts somewhere between 3 to 7 days, the amount of tissue is actually quite small. To absorb it, there are two choices. There are pads, which are worn outside the body and fit in your underwear. There are tampons, which fit inside the vagina.
How much blood will there be when you get your period?
It seems like a lot of blood, especially to a girl who's first started to get her period. It feels like it's just going to come out forever. But actually, it's just a little bit of blood because a woman's uterus is about the size of her closed fist. And the blood is the inside on the inside of that uterus. So that's all that comes out. But it comes out very slowly. So it seems like it takes a long time, but it's very little blood.
When you have your period and you go to the bathroom, what do you see on the tissue, thick red clumps?
Okay. It seems like it's blood by itself that comes out, but it really isn't. That lining that forms in the uterus is a special lining of tissue that has blood in it. So when your period does come out, there will be little lumps of that tissue mixed in with the blood, and that's what you see there.
Discharge. I had like a couple of times, but I didn't know what it was. I just wanted to know, like, what is it really? What is discharge really for?
What is it for?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that your vagina is one of the cleanest places on your whole body? And that it washes itself out all the time, continuously. And that's why women have discharges. You might find some in your underwear at the end of the day. That's the vagina's way of cleaning itself out naturally. The walls of a woman's vagina have special pores in them, and these pores secrete fluid all the time. And this fluid covers and coats the walls of the vagina, and as it comes down, it picks up any waste that needs to come out of it. So when she has her discharge, that's her body's way of cleaning out the vagina.
A discharge is different from a period. It happens every day to some degree.
Yeah.
How about if you never get your period?
Okay. That's very, very, very rare, Pam. Most women do get their periods, but some girls may not get it until they're 17 or 18 or maybe even 19, whereas some girls get it at 8 or 9. But typically, girls start to get their periods somewhere between 11 and 13.
How do you know when you're going to get your period?
How do you first know? Well, that's a tough question. It's very hard for a young woman to know when she's going to have her first period. There are some signs, but we all go through these changes in different orders. So some girls might start to grow their breasts, so they know it'll be happening soon. Some girls might start to feel or hear their voices change, or they start to get taller, or their hips start to get a little wider. Then they know that it might happen. Some girls start to have cramping sensation a couple of weeks before they have their first period. So she's paying real close attention to her body. She may be able to get a feel for when it's going to happen, but most girls never know. It kind of catches them by surprise. Does anybody feel scared about getting their period or nervous?
Me.
Yeah? How so, Shanti?
Because if you get your period, like one time my teacher did, a teacher that I had, and she had a period and it fell all down in her pants.
It leaked through.
Yeah, and you just feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
Embarrassed.
That can be
People make
real
fun of you.
embarrassing.
Especially
Yeah.
if you're at
Well, once a girl gets her period, can she kind of keep an eye on things and know about the time she's going to get it? Yeah. So you just have to be prepared. Keep it on your calendar so you know when that week is coming. What else can you do to be prepared if it comes? You can keep a pad, a sanitary napkin in your purse or in your locker or your book bag to make sure that if you get caught and you're away from home, then you can still take care of it. No problem.
Could we hear some of this again?
We're going to talk a little bit too about
Yeah, good idea. Puberty, instant replay.
Remember, this is the penis, and this is the scrotum, the sac that holds the two testicles.
The testicles, that's where the sperm are made.
Boys have erections. That's when the penis becomes larger and stiffer. During puberty, a boy can also have an ejaculation. You may have heard some people call that coming. That's when a small amount of whitish liquid comes out the tip of the penis.
That's the semen. It contains sperm.
Remember, the vagina is a passageway inside the body. On the outside, you can see the vulva. And this small part of the vulva is called the clitoris.
The whole outside area is called the vulva. I never knew that.
During puberty, a girl starts to get her period.
Every month, a woman's body makes a special lining where a fertilized egg could start to grow. Kind of like a cushion. I get it. If she doesn't become pregnant, the lining isn't needed, and the stuff it's made of just leaves her body. That's her period.
Masturbation is when a boy or girl touches the private parts of his or her own body, including their genitals, for sexual feelings.
If you think we have questions, so do our parents. Listen to some of the questions they have.
Puberty and parents.
2 years ago, and my son at that time, he was 11. So he was, of course, knowing a lot of information through his friends at school. And when he found out I was pregnant, he was very embarrassed because he realized, gee, Mom and Dad still do it. And it's the truth. It really it threw him off. He felt funny telling people that his mother was pregnant.
That's an excellent point. Your children are not much more comfortable thinking of you as sexual beings than you are thinking of them as sexual beings. So there's uncomfortableness on both sides. And it's going to take a little while to bridge that gap and make it okay. But it's important that we all see each other as possible or potential sexual beings.
I have a 12-year-old son who keeps his door closed, and I'm not sure exactly what is happening, and I don't know whether to be probing of him as to whether he's masturbating or whether he has questions how far he's reached in puberty. And I don't know if I should wait for him for the specifics. We're not talking about sex in general now. We're talking about what's happening to him.
Through puberty.
That's right, and I don't know how far I should go in pressing him about his own body.
What message would you like to send to him about masturbation?
I'd like to send a message to him that it's acceptable, that his body and his mind are expressing things that he shouldn't be ashamed of.
How about other people about that issue of masturbation? For your sons or your daughters, is that acceptable? What message would you like them to walk away with?
Yes, we have a dilemma with it, my wife and I, in terms of our children fantasizing a sexual object and masturbating.
I think it's important that when we talk about masturbation, that we let young people know that physically there's no harm that comes from that, but that every family has very different beliefs in terms of appropriate behavior, and that we share our own beliefs with our children about what's important to us. And I think we have the responsibility to say to our children, not only will I tell you what I believe, But I'll tell you, and I think this is where many of us fall down, this is why I came to that belief.
I think if you start nurturing a relationship with your child that is a friendship, you start off nurturing it slowly but surely. You don't throw in all of a sudden, let's talk about sex. If slowly but surely you have developed a relationship of a friendship with your child, they know that they come to mom or dad because they have established a great relationship with mom and dad. And if you have started with little things, big things will seem just as small.
The world today doesn't pay attention to when we want to be sex educators. They're doing sex education of our children. And I think what we need to do is to reclaim our rights and obligations as our children's own sexuality educators. And I would encourage us to do it as early as as early as we're comfortable, earlier than we're really comfortable.
Getting straight information about puberty is one thing, but asking questions about sex, it seems as many people as you ask, that's how many different answers you'll get.
Well, sex is when a woman's part of the sperm, a men's sperm hits a woman's egg, and it produces a baby. I don't know the answer. Sex is when people make love. Sex is sex.
See what I mean? We all hear different parts of the story, so let's find out a little bit more about what sex is.
This happening?
No, definitely not.
The vagina is a muscle. It contracts and expands.
What is sex?
Sometimes when we use the word sex, we're talking about whether you're male or female, or boy or girl. And we use sex in terms of sex appeal, like in commercials when they use really pretty or handsome people, sexy people, to try to get you to buy their products. Other times when we use the word sex, we're talking about sexual intercourse. And some people call that making love or having sex. And this is what adults do when they decide that they care a lot about each other. And when two grown-ups decide to have intercourse, the very next decision they have to make is whether or not they want to have babies. These two people don't want to have any babies, they have to decide what kind of birth control they're going to use to help them prevent that. This might be a good time to describe what sexual intercourse is so you can understand some of the things we're talking about. When a man and a woman really care about each other and they're sexually attracted to each other, they might decide to have intercourse. And that might start with touching and hugging and kissing, create very good feelings inside of them. Along the way, two things are going to be happening. The man gets an erection. The woman's vagina becomes slightly larger and starts to get wet inside. This is going to make it easier for the erect penis to fit inside the vagina when they're ready to have intercourse. When they move around in special ways, it can cause both of them to have an orgasm. When the man has an orgasm, special muscles push the sperm or semen out of his penis and into a woman's vagina.
Does urges mean you have to have sex?
Having urges is a natural part of sexuality. Both boys and girls have sexual urges. It's a good part of our sexuality. It makes us feel good about being male or female. But just because we have urges doesn't mean that we have to act on them. There are other parts to having a relationship with somebody than just acting on sex or having sexual intercourse.
If you can remember the last time you were with somebody that you liked in that special way, and they liked you in that special way, when you held that person's hand, you had a whole bunch of feelings going on inside of you. And all of that has to do with sex, too.
Why do people have sex?
It's a way for two people to show affection towards one another.
The most important thing about sex is that it's mutual.
Sex is a very important part of marriage. It's also a wonderful part of marriage.
Sex is precious.
I think it's wonderful myself. I think it's gorgeous. It just depends on when and how and with who.
Adults have intercourse for a variety of reasons, but nature has a reason of its own.
Conception.
After an ejaculation, millions of sperm travel through a woman's vagina into her uterus in search of an egg. If an egg is present, it sends out a special chemical message which attracts the sperm. The sperm swim towards the egg. When the sperm reach the egg, they try to make their way inside it. If one does, the egg is fertilized. Then the egg closes down. This is called conception, the very beginning of what can become a new baby.
How long does it take to have the sperm to be passed?
If a man ejaculates inside a woman's vagina, probably within just a minute, that sperm can swim up through her cervix and get into her uterus.
Does open mouth kissing contribute to pregnancy?
No, the only way that you can get pregnant is for sperm to meet the ova inside the woman's body.
Why like after one sperm cell like fertilizes an egg, why can't the rest of them as well fertilize the egg?
The egg has a special chemical reaction such that as soon as one sperm gets inside, it closes down and it has kind of a hard shell which immediately forms around it to prevent another sperm from getting in.
Can a woman get pregnant if she doesn't have a period?
If she ovulates before she would normally get that very first period and they have sexual intercourse, yes, she can become pregnant.
I wanted to know, like, if a boy, let the sperm go in you and then you took a shower after, could it come out?
Showers will not help sperm come out of a woman's body. The only thing that you can use to help prevent pregnancy is to keep that sperm from getting far enough into the body to meet the egg.
Thinking about responsibility. All these new urges and changes mean my body is ready to make a baby. I love babies, but if a kid's body is ready to make a baby, is that kid ready for parenthood? One of our teachers, Miss Shalom, has a challenge for us.
How would you feel now if I told you that you were parents and that you were going to take care of a baby? Who thinks they're ready?
Miss Shalom teaches a class in childcare to show kids what it's like to take care of a baby. Here's what we had to do.
For the next week, what I'm going to ask you to do is to take care of one of these sacks of flour as though it were a real baby. What would you have to do for a baby for 1 week? Arden?
You have to feed the baby.
Feed it. Except this is a sack of flour, so I'm not going to make you feed it. Abby?
You would have to change it.
Change the baby. Change its diaper. Yes. RJ?
Make sure you don't lose it.
Good. Make sure you don't lose it. Melissa?
Give it love.
Give it love. Now, think with me for a minute. To give a baby love, what do you have to do?
You have to, put it to sleep and carry it around with you.
Carry it around with you. Are you ready? Here is your major assignment. This baby will be with you at all times. All times for 1 week. It is your responsibility from the moment I give it to you to take good care of it. You ready? Okay. Congratulations. Congratulations. Here's your child. Congratulations, Melissa. Congratulations, Billy. Welcome to the world of parenthood.
I think he looks just like me.
Gee, you have a little girl there.
No way. The kid's a future computer genius.
Well, she could be one too. Now, my daughter.
Stephanie, your kid's a healthy baby boy. And I bet he needs changing.
Z?
You're gonna need some air, aren't you?
Ooh, I'm sorry.
This is how the week went.
Hey, Z! Where's your baby?
Hey, Zach, can you babysit, please?
Sure.
Thanks, man. Hello?
Stephanie, where's your baby?
I
I think having a baby is very stressful.
I love babies.
Having a baby is a hassle.
I really just care about. I do anything for it.
Can you babysit today?
Can you babysit tonight?
What is is this a crib?
Yeah, the teacher gave it to me.
Some parents had a tough week, and so did their babies.
Okay, everyone, may I have your attention, please? How did it go? How was it being a parent this week? Brian, how did you feel about taking care of this baby?
It limited a lot of my activities.
Why was that?
Because I had to always carry it around, and some of the activities I had to do, I couldn't bring my baby, so I couldn't do them.
I have fun, but like when I wanted to go places, I had to ask my grandmother to watch her for me, but basically I really didn't go nowhere all during this week because of the baby.
I don't like the responsibility. Before this project, I knew I didn't want to have children when I get older, and now it showed me I really know that I don't want to have children because I think it will interfere with whatever I want to be when I grow up.
I'm ready to take care of a baby, but I'm not ready to actually have one of my own. It won't be a problem having a baby with me for a long time, but actually to have one of my own, that is a problem because I feel I'm too young for that.
Okay, so you're ready to watch other people's babies at this point in your life. Do you think it's really different?
My friends and I love babies, but kids just aren't ready for the responsibility of having kids of their own. More questions about sex.
What does safe sex mean?
You've probably been hearing a lot about safe sex. The phrase that we now use is safer sex. And we're aware that diseases like AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases can be passed back and forth between two people. One of the ways to try to prevent it from being passed is by using a barrier, such as a condom. A condom can block semen, vaginal fluid, or blood from passing back and forth between two people, and this helps prevent the spread of disease. A condom is also a form of birth control because it can block sperm and egg from meeting. There are other forms of birth control, but only the condom can help prevent the spread of diseases such as AIDS.
In the future, with all the technology that they might have, you think they will construct a much better birth control?
We hope that will happen. The question is wonderful because it suggests right now that we know there really is no foolproof method of birth control. Birth control is designed to keep the sperm away from the egg. The only way to be sure about not having the sperm reach an egg is to not have sexual intercourse.
If a man and a woman have sex and the woman is the one with the AIDS virus, how does it get transmitted back in through his penis to his
Typically, the way that a man would get AIDS from a woman who is infected is if he has some very small, microscopic cut somewhere on his penis. He might not even be aware that he has it. It probably would not come up through the opening in the penis. That opening is called the urethra. But it would come through a cut in the penis. In fact, it tends to be more frequent that men will transmit the AIDS virus to a woman than that men will catch the AIDS virus from a woman.
What is homosexuality?
Homosexuality is the phrase that's used when two people of the same sex, two men and two women, have both romantic and sexual attraction toward each other. When it's two women, we usually refer to them as lesbians. When two men feel that way toward each other, we call them gay men.
Do gay people have sex?
Gay people who really feel toward each other may very well engage in sexual behavior with each other. What's important to understand about homosexuals is that they love each other, they talk with each other, they feel affection toward each other, and they also engage in sexual behavior with each other. Yes?
Would a person as a child feel that when he grows up to be a homosexual? Like, does he feel it when he's a child?
The information that we have is that for a lot of males and females, they become aware that they're attracted to their own sex when they're quite young, very often even before age 5 or 10. Something that happens with great regularity as boys and girls are growing up is that they will experiment sometimes sexually with other children, sometimes with people of their own sex and sometimes with people of the other sex. That does not necessarily mean that they are gay or lesbian. It's simply experimental behavior, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that will be their sexual orientation throughout their lives.
Why do boys force girls into doing sex when they don't want to?
Some like guys, that's how they're portrayed, a lot of them. Like, they're just like, they're girl hungry, and that's it. But others, like, really want to have a relationship, something that will, like, last long, and they'll be really tight.
It's also important that girls and women remember that when they feel no, they have to say no like they mean it. You can't say, oh no. You have to say, no, I don't want to do that. Make it clear when you say no.
Well, I wanted to say I used to go out with a high school boy, and I used to go out with a boy in the high school, and we did hug around and like kiss and this and that. But when it came to that part, when he asked me, "Would you do it with me?" I said no, because that's the first thing that came in my mind. Because my mother, I'm too young to be doing something that's not right for me. So I just wanted to say that.
How do you guys feel about teenagers who have intercourse? What do you think are some of the risks or disadvantages to doing that?
I think it's wrong to have sex at this age, because if a girl would have a baby, they wouldn't have all the right stuff to like a crib or carriage and all that, and they would put it all on their parents, and it wasn't their parents who made the mistake and had the baby at this young age.
But how about if a guy says to you, oh, come on, I'm going to use a condom. Let's have sex anyway.
The answer would still be no, because it's still wrong no matter what he says.
Why not?
He's threatening you. Because it's just like, that's peer pressure right there. And if you say no, the answer's no, with no ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Sometimes girls do that, and then the boys start calling you prude and everything. It really gets on your nerves. And, like, you don't want to, like seem to be all wimpy and everything, and then, like, they'll make fun of you and everything.
Is it make believe that kids put pressure on each other to do stuff? Or is that real?
It's real.
Well, then how do you respond when kids say, oh, come on, just do it?
If your friends do that stuff to you, you should get new friends.
If you have friends who are trying to get you to do something that might be harmful, whether it's drugs or alcohol or sexual intercourse, are they really your friends?
No.
Are they looking out for you?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that.
I have a question for the guys. Let's resume the guys.
When the pressure's all around you and you feel you don't know what to do, then real friends will give you time to figure it out. So much is changing deep inside, and I am the one who will decide from all of the choices that are there for me. Take a minute and get it straight. Take a minute to communicate. Stop the noise of the voices that are telling you to rush. Gotta slow down, gotta. Sometimes you feel you're in a race, but you can go at your own pace. You got a question, you can talk about it, you can ask about it. Don't need to hesitate about it. I wanna know and understand. If I take some time, I know I can, and there's lots of time, so just relax. Time enough to get the facts, you just gotta talk.
So I'm gonna ask my mom what she thinks, and my sister, and my grandfather. And I need another book or two.
Oh yeah, about this purity stuff.
Mom, I've got a few questions.
There's a lot more to know about sexuality. We haven't talked about all of the questions.
Or about all the serious problems that exist, like when a person is urged or even forced to have sex when he or she doesn't want to.
You may want to know more about this.
Or about what it means to be homosexual.
Or more about how babies develop.
And parents might have questions too, and they want to hear what's on your mind.
Parents can answer your questions or help you find a teacher or another adult who can.
Remember, all the kids in the show got answers because they asked. You can ask too. One Contact is a production of the Children's Television Workshop.